In Nigeria today, juvenile delinquency and crime is on the increase, posing threats to the safety and security of lives and properties. According to the Nigerian Constitution of 1999 as amended, defines juvenile delinquency as a crime committed by a young person under the age of 18 years. Just this week, a 14-year-old suspected armed robber was arrested at NRA Junction, Warri, by operative of B Division, where he confessed that he had been in the business of armed robbery since he was 7 years old. Also arrested alongside him were two others aged between the age of 18 and 16 years with two locally made guns seen with them. But the question many are asking, and one we shall also be asking today on the show, is who is to blame? The parents who gave birth to these children, the schools who were supposed to put that discipline and morals, or the society which seems to be changing by the day? And what needs to be done to help stop this growing menace before we get to a journey of no return? Well, this and more as we journey through today's edition of The Big Story is all centered on juvenile delinquency, a growing trend. Well, a social vices that seems to be taking a scary statistics. And that's what we're having as a major discourse today on The Big Story. And you still do know my colleague Miriam Orikeme is right here with me. But also helping us to talk about this is someone that also runs a program on community-based development on the station. And we're talking of no other person, well, I'd rather call him Comrade Francis Noaifie. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning.
I hope we got the pronunciation.
Oh, yes, yes, it's getting there. It's getting there.
Whenever we get here, and getting here is how much of an issue is it? Because, well, it's more of a problem. And Miriam, do us the honors first of really letting our listeners and our viewers truly understand the crime as it concerns juvenile delinquency. What are those issues that seems to be around it?
Okay, so basically juvenile delinquency is a situation where a child, I term them as children,
yes,
because it starts from the age of about 10 all the way to the 17. Yes, I term them as teenagers, go into crime. And it's not just any sort of crime, like it's not just robbery per se. It's a whole lot. We have delinquent behaviors such as stealing and shoplifting. We have drunkenness. We have burglary. We have robbery. We have rape. We have prostitution, running away from home, disobedience, sexual promiscuity, and all of that. It's a long range. So it's not like maybe people just think it's just robbery. No, it's a whole lot of. So coming down to our society now, let's take where we are right now. I think what we see mostly, aside from sexual promiscuity and robbery, we also see children joining what is usually known as HKs. In as much as let's break it down for those who are fraud. What do we call
internet
this?
Fraud.
Yeah, internet fraud, where they just like form a group, an organization, and all of that. We see children run away from home to go and do stuff like that. We see female children on the streets, immorally dressed and all of that. So it's a whole lot. So, Comrade, I'm sure you're going to help us break all of this down.
So how much of an issue is this, especially as it concerns us in recent times?
If you check it very well, there are so many pillars holding the things. I call them teen pillars. Most of these pillars, some of them are broken down totally, and some of them have gotten a crack. For instance, primarily we have the parents, the parental pillars. Then we have the educational pillars. We have the societal pillars and all of that. And it's for the religious pillar is equally there. If you look at it from the parental pillar to the religious pillar, they've all gotten cracked because of the influence. Before now, we've been living on a blank system. Why do I call it a blank system? Those days we were made to believe that eating an egg is even a crime or a sin by children. And eating anything sweet, they will tell you, eating this will lure you into stealing. So we are having moderation then in whatever we do. But today, the world today is like a global village. So everyone is exposed to informations, whether positive or negative. So from the parental pillar down to the religious pillar, they've all failed. Imagine a parent, you buying gadgets, computers for your own child to travel out. To where? to go and hustle. Hustle what? To make money. Instead of directing the child to school, you are directing the child towards early money making. And by the time you do this, you are already failing as a parent. Then look at our instructors. You send your children to school, even the lecturers or their primary instructors, what they will even tell them or teach them, or they will showcase before them or flaunt before them, is nothing to write home about. Look at our society today. We have peer groups. When you see your peers doing certain things, you want to imitate because they are influencing you negatively. So all these things, look at our society, for instance. Look at the government. Let me bring the government in here. The government is supposed to moderate on how all these pillars can work successfully. They are the one even flaunting ill-gotten wealth. So by the time they begin to see these things, instead of them learning the art of being good citizens, they are now learning the art of making money illicitly. So that is the reason why I'm putting it that most of these pillars, they are already cracked. Look at our religious leaders today. I remember in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, our religious leaders, they were exemplary in nature, what they do. So you look up to them, you want to be like them, they teach you, they give us the kind of teaching that we want to learn from. But today, look at our religious leaders. They are even the one doing the worst. And by the time they are flaunting all these things, our youth or teens, they begin to see that if you have money, and also do not forget, Nigeria is a capitalist state. So when you have money in your pocket, you can do whatever you wish to do. So because of these things, this easy or soft influence is now making our youth to graduate into something that is anti-system, is anti-government, and anti-morality.
Taking from what you said, yes?
Yes.
Let's look at the factors responsible for juvenile delinquency, teenage crime.
Yeah.
Now, you made mention of some pillars, parental pillars, governmental, societal, religious, as well as. Now, let's take it one by after the other. Let's start with parental, because I believe the parental pillar is, the family is the first unit in the society and where a child actually stems from. So, during my course of research, I found that unstable homes, children raised in unstable environments, and also children raised by one parent is actually one of the contributing factors to teenage crime. Do you agree with this?
Not totally.
Okay.
What we call bloodstream. There are some families, if you discover very well, there's a kind of bloodline that when you go back even to the grandparents, you will see that what that child is doing, somehow the grandparents were doing it. So if there is nobody to cut that line, that lineage, to bring a change to that lineage, it will be on and on like that. Let me tell you, those that we used to believe that when the parent is poor, or when parents are poor, then the children will not do well. No. Even in some cases, when the parents are poor, the children will take the challenge that because my parents are poor, let me study hard so that I can rescue them from those states. But these days, it's not because of that. If you talk about a parent or maybe a single parent, I've seen people who are raised by single parents and they are doing well today in the society. I've equally seen people who have rich parents, yet they end up being hamburgers. They end up doing all forms of social vices. So it's not issue of single parenting.
Okay, single parenting. Let's keep single parenting aside. What about the unstable homes? Because for instance, dysfunctional. Let's say in a family where a child grows up seeing the parents hitting each other. That child automatically, because they say they usually call that, or let's take another example, a child from a broken home. They say most children from broken homes always tend to have broken homes themselves. So do you think an unstable environment within the family contributes to this?
It does. But when we are talking about morality here, we are talking about juvenile delinquency here. It's far beyond just mere immoralities. For instance, if you are a parent and maybe, let me just use it this way, you are beating your wife every time in the presence of your children, they might end up beating their own wives. Okay? If you are a mother, you are dressing immorally, your children might end up dressing that way. That is totally different. We are talking about delinquency that boils down to murder, boils down to stealing, boils down to hijacking, car hijacking, That is what we're talking about here.
But you know, the delinquency actually is a
yes, I know. It's the range is long. Okay, we are talking about the height of it. What is causing it is beyond broken homes. I've seen a lot of broken homes, children ending up doing well. That is what we're talking about here. But this thing, when it's happening, want to generalize it societally. Okay. That is where the ball game is. Okay.
Well, anyway, I love you saying societally, and let's look at even our social environment. Yeah. Now, how much of a contributive factor is that? Looking at the environment the child is being brought up, because we do know, and then many will say sometimes the environment the child is being brought up expresses how the child will be eventually in future. Yeah. Now, how much of an influence is that? As we also look at the influence of also peer pressure. If you look at the recent crime, even that was seen in NRA, reports reaching us was this child as early as 7 sees his own area friends do this, and he was lured into it, and that's where he started from. So let's look at the environment the child is being brought up, and also look at the issue of peer pressure and the influence that seems to also have. Because you said it, you might even have a child from a very well-to-do home, and not just only that, but also have a strong Christian backing, but ends up different.
Yeah. So let's look at the preparatory aspect of it. Yes. The preparation comes from the home. There are some children, when they were growing up, they were doing well. They have good parental upbringing, but immediately they step into the society.
That changes them.
Yes, they begin to see from a different perspective. Not necessarily influenced by the parents, but peer groups. They begin to see that what this guy is doing, to them, is married to their side, you know, as juvenile as they are. So they believe that if my mates can do this, I can equally do it. So they begin to learn from what those peer groups have been doing, so they are easily influenced by the society. That's why I'm using the word societal influence. That is where the whole problem lies. So if you see what your friends are doing, those you were living together in the village with, and suddenly left, after about a year or two, they comes back with something that even no one in that community have done. So they begin to ask, how do I make it? And they begin to lecture them how to make it. So society, some of them too, they see with their eye without even asking, they just plug into the ocean of the societal dysfunction we are talking about. So the society is mainly responsible for all these vices we're enumerating here.
Okay, well, take it from that. Let's look at the role of government in all of this.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen in my course of research and over time, I've seen some, you know, juvenile delinquency is not just restricted to Nigeria.
Yes,
it's a world problem.
Yeah.
So I've seen some international programs, you know, in some countries abroad where they bring the government sponsors programs where they bring people who have been to prison, who have been reformed, you know, and they bring them to come and address these delinquents. You know, to put them through and show them that, okay, this is what prison is like. If you do this, this is the right way to go. This is, you know, what kind of... In Nigeria here, do we have any program or anything being sponsored by the government, or probably the executive arm of government or the police or whatever, do you know, to actually solve the situation? Because we saw that picture of the children being caught with local guns and everything, and the police was asking, who is to blame in this situation? Is it the school? Is it the parents? Is it the society? Is there anything like that our government has actually put in place to rehabilitate or reform such children?
I love that question so much, because when you bring a developed society, the ways of the developed society into a developing society, it won't work well. Most of these things the government have overlooked for so many years now. For decades now, because they are seeing what is happening outside there, and they have a way of checkmating on these things over there. When someone goes to prison abroad, if he comes back, he's rehabilitated already. But in Nigeria, when somebody is in prison, when he's coming back, he's a hardened criminal already. In most cases, not in all cases anyway. Somebody who is a thief, he was jailed. After serving about 10 years, he comes back.
But Comrade Francis, I will need to cut you there. Does it make sense that we put children in correctional facilities that are basically for adults? Because if you look at the age of these, don't we have juvenile correctional facilities, institution that would have helped to really transform and reform these children, rather than putting them where hardened criminals.
Good. Now, let me tell you, Mr. Ray.
Yeah.
More adult
What
people.
are you going to reform them into? You reform somebody into something that you want him to look like. You are the leader. We have a system that is corrupt. Let's face the truth. The system is corrupt already. The government is corrupt. We can't run away from the truth. You want to rehabilitate them now to become like who? To become like the president.
So are you saying our correctional facilities,
yeah, the correctional facilities,
have not
even
been
those
able
that
to
are
do
there,
that?
even those that are there, they are corrupt. So when you take them to that place, instead of rehabilitating the children, they even make them to be more hardened. Now you are telling me now you are a commissioner, for instance, of sports and youth development. Look at your entourage, your convoy. How does he portray? You want to tell me to look like you? Well, when I want to, if I wish to look like you, I should be corrupt like you. So there is no one to correct anyone. Nobody can correct anybody in this country.
You're making those statements.
Yes, it's a bold statement. We must face it. If you say we should talk about juvenile delinquency, we must talk about the causes of this juvenile delinquency. And those that are supposed to, supposed to apply the affairs of these children, they are the ones people doing the worst. So what are they going to learn from? So when we talk about in other developed societies, they come out from that place. The prison, this place is better than the prison. You wish to go back to the prison again? They say no. Do you wish to be corrected? I say yes. So they follow. Now, someone come from the prison. He's coming from the prison to the society that looks like a prison. So what is it? Why are you going to correct him to be?
We'll not jail you there to stop talking about it, but we need to go on a break.
Yes.
All right. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion as we look at that growing menace. And we're talking about the issue of juvenile delinquency that seems to be taking a center stage, especially in the country. Like the report we said earlier this week, where we had the 3 hardened armed robbers caught on account of it. And not just only that, but they started as early as 7 years, something that makes many Nigerians wonder, where are we going to? Well, we need to go on a break then.